Hello, great people. Welcome back to Global Happenings. Today, we're so excited to have you again. Very soon, Buhari will be dragged to give explanation over some of the misconduct that has been going on in Nigeria, especially during his administration. Don't forget that fairly recently, he said that he is not at large, that he is in his hometown in Douala. In other words, if you need me, if you want to send EFCC to come fetch me, I am waiting for you in Douala. But guess what? The Senate have started a well planned out move to get him to explain to Nigerians by kickstarting an investigation over what Nigerians are overly interested to know about the government of Buhari. I'm going to give you full details of this news in a jiffy. But before I do that, if you're not subscribed to our channel, please do well. Hit on the red subscribe button and also the bell icon so that you get notification anytime we publish our video. Now, according to the news, the Senate yesterday commenced the probe of oil subsidy and under recovery regime operated by the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. It specifically frowned at the 9.3 trillion spent on subsidy regime by Buhari from January 2021 to June 2023. You heard me well. Let me say it again. Say he specifically frowned at the 9.3 trillion spent on the subsidy regime by Buhari from 2021 to June 2023. As if they were not in the know. The Senate is also asking for a living wage for workers as a way of cushioning the effect of subsidy removal and as well seek for the establishment of three functional refineries for local production and distribution of refined oil with a view to bringing down the pump price from 540 per liter to between 300 to 350 per liter. The resolution was sequel to a motion sponsored by Chiwuba Ndubweze. In the motion, need to investigate the controversial huge expenditure on premium motor spirit under the subsidy stroke under recovery regime by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited NNPLC. Ndubweze said the step taken by President Bola Tinubu on subsidy withdrawal in May was commendable, but the regime needed to be investigated. He specifically submitted that while within 10 years, 2006 to 2015, the federal government through NNPCL claimed 170 billion naira as under recovery, it expended 843.121 billion on under recovery between January 2018 and January 2019. It went further to say that it's very worrisome of the expenses made on subsidy stroke under recovery by NNPCL during the period under review, particularly from January 2021 to June 2023, which was 9.3 trillion naira claimed to have been spent. The money, as shown by available records, shows that in 2021, 1.42 trillion was expended in 2022, 4.3 trillion, and in the first 6 months of 2023, 3.6 trillion, totaling 9.3 trillion. Many of the senators who contributed to the debate on the motion frowned at the bogus expenses made on the subsidy regime by NNPCL and supported all the prayers sought for in the motion. The Senate accordingly resolved that its Standing Committee on Petroleum, Downstream Petroleum, Upstream and Finance should, when constituted, carry out a holistic investigation on oil controversies surrounding subsidy and under recovery regime. It also urged the NNPCL, in conjunction with some major international oil companies, IOCs, in Nigeria, to form three different consortiums and build three refineries to stabilize or for the stabilization of the oil market and the nation's economy generally. The Senate has also mandated its Committee on Works, when constituted, to investigate the award of contracts for the rehabilitation of Aba, Osisioma, Port Harcourt, and Umuahia Road. It specifically mandated the committee to investigate the level of funds released, utilization, and the level of work done so far. Quite interesting. It's good for me to buttress this for most Nigerians to understand what actual the level of corruption that took place during Buhari's regime. No wonder Kuka said what he said. Let me reiterate that particular place again, where the Nwabuezi said something about the issue of the expenses revolving around all subsidies. He said here that very worrisome of the expenses made on subsidies stroke under recovery by NNPCL during the period under review, particularly from January 2021 to June 2023, which was 9.3 trillion claimed to have been spent. The money, as shown by available record, shows that in 2021, 1.42 trillion was spent. In 2022, 4.3 trillion. And in the first 6 months of 2023, 3.6 trillion. Now, in 2021, that's from January till December, what was spent was 1.42 trillion. In 2022, January to December, 4.3 trillion was spent. But in 2023, just January to May that he left, 3.6 trillion was spent. How do you explain this? I mean, when I hear things like this, it almost make people scream and shout. What level of corruption? The man who claimed that he was not corrupt, imagine what was done in his regime. No wonder the likes of Matthew Kuka, the bishop of the Sokoto diocese, opened up and said that the ugliest face of corruption was seen during Buhari's government. And that is absolutely true. The ugliest. Now, look at how this whole script was written. Let's reflect on what happened when Jonathan was on board and when Obasanjo was on board. From 2016 to 2006, I think as at that time, Obasanjo was on board, to 2016 when Jonathan left. Guess how much the federal government spent on subsidy? They spent 170 billion as under recovery and expended 843 billion on under recovery between sorry, I'll take that again. In 2006 to 2015, how much was spent by federal government was just 170 billion. But when Buhari came on board in 2016 to or 2000 came on board from 2018 to January 2019, that was when there was going to be a re-election. Buhari spent 843.121 billion for 10 years. How much was spent in the other regime? 170 billion. For just 1 year, 2018 to 2019, Buhari spent 843.121 billion. If that wasn't enough, by the time we went to 2021, 22, 23, Buhari spent 9.3 trillion. Oh my God. This man should be summoned and be dealt with. I mean, whoever, I don't even know who is going to be dealt with here, because if we look at this situation very well, Buhari, as at that time, was the man on board. He was don't forget, he was the Minister of Petroleum. He was the Minister of Petroleum. And I personally feel that the way with which they were using to divert this money was by pretending as if Nigeria doesn't have any refinery, by taking it to Niger to refine the fuel and bringing it back. I mean, this is too outrageous to be ignored. And whoever that will be set, those people who are going to be investigating this issue, I think most of them should be coming from the southern part of Nigeria, so that better investigations will be carried out, because this is outrightly corruption. There's nothing anyone can say here. Someone says yes, such investigation won't happen in this country, because most of the senators are deeply involved in such scandal. Bakam. Because that's a big another question that we need to answer. Some of the approvals that were made during that period was sourced from the Senate. So how do we explain all of that? I think it's time to start nailing people so that Nigerians should see the truth of the previous administration. But like someone said, most of the senators who are in the 10th Senate were in the 9th Senate. How did those approvals come? It came via the office of the Senate president. So how would this be fixed? That's a big question that I want